Hello, and welcome to 12-Minute Meditation, a weekly podcast from Mindful and mindful.org that offers mindfulness meditations backed by neuroscience. Research shows that just 12 minutes of meditation a day can yield benefits like increased attention, focus, creativity, calm, resilience, and compassion. So on this podcast, we invite you to explore guided meditations from today's leading mindfulness experts. I'm Siri Myram, editor at Mindful and mindful.org. Even if they aren't particularly into making resolutions, for many people, the new year still feels like a fresh start, a time for taking stock, for reviewing what's past, for turning the page on one chapter and starting another. In today's meditation, teacher Frank Ostaseski asks, "How do you meet endings?" We can learn a lot about how we face the new by looking at how we let go of the old. And here, Ostaseski offers a practice to surrender with curiosity and gratitude. Frank Ostaseski is a meditation teacher who co-founded the Zen Hospice Project. In 2004, he went on to create the Metta Institute to provide innovative educational programs and professional training to foster compassionate, mindfulness-based care. Ready to practice? Here's Frank Ostaseski.
I want to draw our attention to endings. The end of a day, the end of a meal, the end of something precious and rare, the end of this sentence. How do you meet endings? I mean, most of us have some developed habits about the way in which we meet endings. Are you aware of your habits? Without any judgment or criticality, let's just take a look to see what our relationship to endings are. Like when you go to a party or you go to a conference, you have a tendency to leave emotionally or mentally before the conference is over, before the party's over. Or maybe you're the one in the parking lot waving goodbye to everybody as they depart. Or maybe you find some way of cocooning yourself, isolating in some way, pulling back into a kind of protective stance. Or perhaps you become ambivalent or indifferent about endings. Maybe endings are very emotional for you. Maybe you get sad or scared. Let's just take a look. When you end a relationship, how do you do it? Do you try and shift it into some other form of relationship so that it'll continue? Do you end it with a text? How do you say goodbye? In the afternoon, when you leave your work, do you say goodbye to your colleagues? When a friend is sick and dying, do you go visit them? How do you meet endings? What are your patterns? Are you happy with the way you meet endings? You don't have to be wedded to the past way of doing it. You have freedom to change it right here, right now. When an ending comes, what happens in your body? Do you get tight, contracted? What's the emotional experience? Does it bring about anxiety, fear, sadness? And what happens in your mind when endings come? Do you have remembering thoughts or planning thoughts? How do you meet this experience? I want to draw your attention to endings. You know, the way that we end something shapes the way the next thing begins. When we hang on to the past, it limits our capacity to welcome the new. A lot of times we hang on because we're still demanding something of the past, wanting it to give us more of what we'd hoped to get from that situation, more success, more love. The more comfortable we are with endings, the more we can welcome the new and release the old. You know, I used to run a preschool with a friend of mine. And we had these 3 to 5-year-olds that we would take out into the nearby woods. And there we would give them the task of collecting dead things. And the kids loved this, you know. They'd go out into the woods and they'd collect an old stick or a fallen leaf or a rusty old car part or sometimes the bones of a bird or a small animal. And then we'd bring them together and we'd lay them all out on a blue tarp in a grove of fir trees. And then we had a kind of show and tell. And the kids had no fear. They were full of curiosity. And sometimes when they presented the item that they found, they wove a great story about it, Like how this rusty old car part had fallen from a spaceship, or this leaf was being used by a mouse to keep him warm until summer came. They had no fear. I remember one little girl said to me, I think the trees are very kind, that they allow the leaves to fall from them so that new ones can grow. It would be really sad if the tree couldn't grow new leaves. We know that birth will end in death, and reflecting on this might imbue our lives with more appreciation and gratitude. We know that the coming together of things inevitably means their dispersion. And reflecting on this may cause us to live a life of simplicity, or to really cherish and care for what we have. We know that everyone we love will one day die. Reflecting on this may cause us to think about how do we want to care for them now. The way we meet an ending shapes the way the next moment arises. The study of endings is a beautiful way to step fully into our lives. The breath can help us restore, can revitalize our life. The breath helps us to unhook from the daily frenzy. It brings balance to the instinctive drive to fight, or freeze. Breath offers us an extraordinary opportunity to look at our relationship to endings. Let the belly be soft. Let the shoulders relax. Bring your attention to the breath, to the direct experience of breathing in and breathing out. Be aware of the sensations in the body, the large, gross sensations, and the subtler sensations of tingling or pulsing. Just let yourself settle into the rhythm of the breath. However it is, no need to control it or shape it in any way. See if you can become aware of the very beginning of the inhale, the middle and end of the inhale, the very beginning, middle, and end of each exhale. Now see if you can become aware of that moment of transformation, where the inhale becomes the exhale, or when the exhale becomes the inhale. Relax. Let the breath breathe itself. Then you might notice that little gap, that pause at the end of the exhale. Maybe it's just a nanosecond. But bring your attention fully and completely there. What happens in the gap? Are there physical sensations? Is there an emotional response? Do you find yourself anxious or feeling a sigh of relief? What happens in the mind? Is there a tendency to want to control the breath, to micromanage it in some way? Just let yourself rest in the gap. Rest in the pause. This pause, it's a moment of faith or fear. Do you trust that the next breath will emerge? Can you relax with things just as they are? The breath is a microcosm of our whole life. Coming and going, appearing and disappearing. As we settle, we begin to feel like the breath is breathing us. Relinquish your control of the breath and let it breathe you. Settle back into the constant change, the coming and going, the beginning and endings of all experience.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of 12-Minute Meditation from Mindful and mindful.org. I hope you enjoyed practicing with us today. Sign up for our free newsletter at mindful.org/signup. And if you'd like to explore additional related content and meditations, check the show notes for links.